Every season has a beginning, and no better place than here. On a week where machinery in motorsport has gone hyper, we tackle once more over 12 weeks of sim racing action, the trials and tribulations of days gone by. A hulking behemoth of Japanese motorsport, a German machine of pedigree and respect, both Nissan and Audi take to the Florida airstrips as we take off from the Sebring International Raceway on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good afternoon, sim racing fans. My name is Jake Sperry, and joining me for today's action at Kamel GT is Ossian Puhaka. Directing traffic for us this afternoon is Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sebring will forever be woven in endurance legacy as a traditional 12-hour spectacle. Not so much in terms of distance this time, but knowing how to tackle this place is still just as important. Let's take a look at the GSRC track guide to see what Sebring is all about.
Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well-known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course.
That's what makes Sebring a truly unique spectacle. But Ossian, this is a track which has itself its own peculiarities. It's a track that a lot of drivers know very well. And the big thing I think to take away is that final sector, that run from asphalt over onto concrete. What do you think makes this circuit so incredible?
Well, Jake, I think it's a combination of multiple different factors. It has a nice flow to it, especially with higher speed cars. I'm talking about the Nissans here. But also with slower cars. It fits almost every single car that is out there. And you got a lot of difficulties to navigate that I think this is the best example alongside Silverstone in that a flat circuit with no elevation changes can be very interesting and can be a pleasure to drive as well. One of my favorite sections probably coming out of the hairpin and into the small SS section that is marked Fangio there. So you come out of the hairpin, you have a couple of flat out corners, then you come into Cunningham and you just wrestle the steering wheel on the exit. You squeeze the throttle in through a couple of left-handers, and with old tires or with brand new tires, you might have to lift a little bit. Otherwise, it's flat out, and then you come straight into the tower corner where the track kinda narrows into a chute, and you have to shoot yourself into a very narrow line because there's a big curb on the inside, and you don't want to hit that. So it's one of my favorite sections in any track, and when you get it right, you get an advantage. But there's a lot of things that work here. It's a great track for multiclass racing, and it's a real driver's circuit.
It is, and I'm sure we're going to see that over the course of today's action. A brand new season means that everybody's points reset once again to 0, and the opportunities then to go out to score is going to be crucial. This is how they looked in GTP, prototype last time out. Hugh Haycox has made the transition from GTP to GTO for this season, but he took the title by 61 points over Fabian Youngbluth, who, believe it or not, did not have a win last season. Matthias Havdahl finished third ahead of Aitor Sintes Galindo, just 8 points between them, with Aaron Humphrey 5th and Jason Clapper in 6th, tied on points with Laus Olsen not having the luck he needed. Timothy Reed ended up being the best of the Timothys ahead of Timothy Vaughan, who ended up 9th, And of course, you could say the classics legend who is fast in everything, Ove Trengerade, would round out the top 10 in GTP. Ossian, you had a look at the GTO Championship from last season.
Absolutely, and it was the Finn Jouko Leskälä who got the title ahead of Javier Del Olmo. Ian Haycox ended up rounding out your top 3, and Esko Lehtiniemi finished in 4th place. Doug Cloud was 5th ahead of Jamie Hemel-Smith. Then you got Arturas Kundelis, Philippe Savoy, Andreas Schuster, and Cam Porter rounding out the top 10 there. So another interesting season with the Audis.
Yeah, so they are going to be really interesting to see how they all go and battle. Now, this is, of course, the first race of the championship, so it's 40 minutes long that they have on the clock. They are racing to time here today. It is an open setup, so everybody now is trying to find the best advances that they can to make the car as quick as possible. They don't have a spare one here today, so if you see any drivers caught up in an instant, they are going to be out of the race. If you break the car, well, you bought the car. You're going to have to pay for repairs. Drive-through penalty comes through at 17 instant points, and at 25, if we should get there, it is disqualification for any driver who is out there in today's field. Qualifying, though, is over and done with, so we'll have the opportunity to take a look at our starting grids here today for action around this beautiful Sebring circuit. And it's Andrew Medell who qualifies the car on pole position with a 141.812, has Michael de Turk for company on a 141.938. Aitel Sintes Galindo and Ferran Grau. Note the number 40, a really low iRating here today. He's going to have to work hard from 4th position with Martin Krejcirek in 5th and Timothy Reed in 6th. Fernando Serrato will start from 7th ahead of Richard Dibdahl with row 5 hosting Jonas Koberstein and Daniel Gomez rounding out then at the top 10. We'll look down the rows then to row 6 where Aaron Humphrey and Luke Smoker find themselves housed with Hamilton Barrera in 13th position and Brendan Lim starts in 14th. Vladimir Shumilov will go from 15th along with Jack Wells. Row 9 housing Jamie Pounder and Roman Bello with Jason Dunnington 19th and Pablo Suarez rounding out the top 10. He's been around sim racing for a very long time. The final bit of the GTP field houses Jason Clapper, Marcus Lindblom and J.E. Hyde, all 3 of them not setting a lap time. Ossian, GTOs and qualifying was a very interesting story.
Oh, it absolutely was, and it was the kind of story we are used to from last season. Javier Del Olmo taking the pole position just 1/10 ahead of Jouko Leskälä, the championship combatants from last year, back for another go, and I'm sure Javier wants that title back. Ralph Seibelt is starting in 3rd place with Timothy Vaughan in 4th and Arturas Kundelis in 5th. Timothy Vaughan, of course, making the transition to Audis this year, as Jake mentioned previously. Franco Scuri will be starting in 6th place ahead of Philip Lake, another man who's been around the bend for quite a while. Ian Haycox in 8th place, Andreas Schuster 9th, and Ove Trengerade rounding out the top 10 in that number 16 machine. Then you got Noel Luneburg in 11th place, Aurimas Tsilinskas in 12th, with Doug Loud 13th and John Olson 14th. You got Peter Urban in 15th, Christopher Pites in 16th, Jamie Hemel-Smith 17th, Jack David Spickett 18th, Daniel Ripetto 19th, and Miguel Alcade rounding out the top 20 with a very, very, very tight qualifying. Some couple of more times here still. Cam Porter 21st, Jyri Giesen 22nd, then you got Hugh Haycox and Carlos Fonseca in the last row of the starting grid and starting lineup, and especially for Hugh Haycox starting 23rd in that Audi grid, that's going to be a mighty climb he's going to have to make, Jake, because he is one of the top envelope drivers in this series usually.
Yeah, he really is. And I think it does show that not putting a time in qualifying is going to put him into a little bit of trouble. Now, expect a natural split between the two classes as they pace on their pace lap here behind the Porsche iRacing first safety car. They are really going to be looking to try and get as much as they possibly can out of these laps here today, and if they can get those 40 minutes working in the way that they know how, this front of the field should be quick. We do expect the lapping process to be something very interesting to keep in mind as well, mainly because it's the low speeds which are very similar when they go through between GTO and GTP categories, but you can note that the front of the field there, the number 3 and the number 31, they're going to want to have a clean start around this track. Get a really good drive as the pace car dives off to the right-hand side, or at this stage, it would be to the left of screen. And let's get ourselves then underway then. Racing gets itself going, and we are here at this beautiful, beautiful circuit. On the brakes then, through the first corner, the fast-flowing right, everybody flying on through with everything that they've possibly got available to them, and into turn 3, nice and clean, single file through the first 7, 8 cars, and then you get the 2 wide, out of turn 5 and looking to drive.
Very impressive start for the Nissans, Jake, and that's a very, very clean cue that they got going there. Cold tires, mind you, on those first couple of corners, but here we see the Audis, how they managed to tremble that first bend and then breaking down in the second corner, much longer braking distances with these four-wheel drive beasts, but they too look to be taking it very, very cleanly right from the get-go, and it is a duo that we are used to in the leading positions, Jouko Leskela and Javier Del Olmo, and I think it was Leskela actually taking the lead off the start.
Yeah, 13 was spread eagle through the middle of turn 5. That would have put a lot of trouble in terms of the rest of the field, and there is trouble because there's the GTPs going around then, and on up, upside down. Big troubles then for the 34. In trouble on the opening lap. That's 2 of them already gone in the early stages, and that's right in the middle of the circuit. That will be in the transfer out to Cunningham Corner, and that over towards the Tower Bend. So initially, you look at that section of the track, it's a weird place to have an accident like that, Ossian.
Very much so, but it's also the Tower Corner. I mentioned it on the pre-race show that we talked about this track, and it is a narrow place. You really want to get into a single file, but yeah, when you come into that corner, it's not really something I'm used to having a big accident in, seeing a big accident in. But then you got cold tires, maybe getting a little bit too aggressive off the exit of Cunningham Corner. That's very much possible, and then just getting it squirrely, and you know, drivers having disagreements with each other on the basis of what the pace is that they should be doing, perhaps unexpecting a slide or something. It can be very little that sets these cars off, because the Nissan, it's got tons of grip, it's got ground effect, but once the grip is gone, it's gone.
Was that the driver in third position then struggling? That would have been Fabian Grau and Aitor Sintez Galindo now, and they're going to be side by side. Look at the swarm. You got Reed and Krajcik all there trying to get through, and Grau will hold on to that third place, but a big mistake coming out of turn 5 opens up the opportunities then as they flick through the Fangio S's here, the right, then the left, heading over towards this Cunningham Corner, and no dice then in terms of the move. In GTO, Jouko Leskela on the opening corner there, Ossian took the race lead away, and the header Javier Del Olmo, he's going to be very, very happy about the way he goes about his business, knowing that this is a very, very crucial phase of the race, the opening phase to go through. And you look at that group behind, they are going to want to try and get away very, very quickly.
Yeah, and that's what Jouko Leskela does so well. He is such a good driver right from the get-go. He's got an excellent pace all the way through the race, but especially in shorter races and in the opening laps, he is an almighty driver, and he has that ability to extract 100% out of the car right from the get-go, which is quite a rare thing actually. Many drivers usually, such as myself when I was still active, it would take me a couple of laps to really get into the rhythm of things, but Jouko can just get on it right from the get-go, and that's really his advantage over the field now. Now we'll have to see how he manages those tires. Historically a bit of a weakness of his perhaps, and how Del Olmo won and everybody else chasing them can utilize that big pack and its advantages in trying to reel in Jouko Leskela in that leading position.
Well, it's very difficult to say a driver's got a weakness when their win percentage is nearing towards 50% in a series like this. Leskela, 120 starts, 58 wins to his name into Sunset Bend, the corner of 1,004 lines. You never quite know which one's the correct one. And the updates to this Sebring circuit are really interesting, especially off the exit of Sunset Bend, right on the outside. There was grass there before, now there is not, and it makes it just a little bit more tricky when it gets a bit more bumpy on the exit.
It does, and it's less clear to the eye where the line goes. I used to love taking the exit of Sunset Bend and just playing with the edge of the grass, you know, just taking half a wheel to the grass maybe. Because you know, when somebody goes a little bit wide, you can see them wiggle and you can see the grass bloom up. And now it just bumps and it's a little bit different. And I think it's actually it's a little bit paradoxical because usually when you pave over something, pave over the exit of the corner, it's supposed to be easier. But I think it's a little bit more difficult for these drivers to actually find that line until they grow used to it at least, as we are running on board with Timothy Vaughan.
Yep, into position, staring at the orange Audi in front of Javier Del Olmo, trying to make the move happen, but very difficult through the middle stages of the lap then, trying to search as much as possible for a run out on track. And through this Cunningham corner, you flick on through this beautiful S's section, trying to get as much drive as you can in towards the right-hander here of the Tower corner, leads to the Flying Fortress straight, and then the run through Bishop and over towards the Le Mans and Ulmann corners, and the Ulmann straight, of course, the most important phase of the track. Now you can see here, flicking through the rights and the lefts, what you have in these machines is a very fun amount of grip. And what you need to try and do is maximize the circuit on the outside, open this corner up as much as possible. This is where you get the run on circuit.
Yep, and this is where you get the draft as well. Very blocky cars, so they do have a fair bit of draft to them. And just look at that wide body Audi. It's a sight unlike many others, and it's really, if there were cars that would exemplify 80s motorsport, I think this would definitely be one of my top choices for it. You got the Group B monsters, you got the Group 5 monsters as well, but these really the love childs of the Group 5, so to speak. These unbelievably wide-bodied cars with lots of power, perhaps not quite as advanced in terms of suspension and chassis, but really like all-wheel drive, you got tons of grip, and these cars, these Audis, are actually faster than the Nissans out of slow corners, which is a unique thing this series has in terms of multiclass traffic. I remember being frustrated a couple of times being behind an Audi on the exit of a slow corner, and then instead of getting the overtake done, you just see the Audi get past you and you have to pass it again, especially in places like the hairpin here. But so many fast corners, of course, here that the Nissans won't have too big of a trouble. But yeah, just look at that queue. It's a season opener and you can see them being quite happy about it and straight away getting into that leading battle.
Yeah, and they're really trying to drive forward, and not too far away, we're going to start hitting the lap traffic at this point, flicking through turns 3, 4 and 5. There is the number 23 machine looking to try and hold station at the moment here, driving on through and looking to make this middle sector work. Now the door's going to open up here at this hotel hairpin, trying to find this overtake. You're going to have to be brave on the brakes. There is the number 19 then of Smoker, trying to get through and gain that extra position, but not necessarily having everything his own way at the moment. And when you're in a group like this, it's very, very difficult to get through, because the car in front essentially, or especially with the body types that these Nissan prototypes have, they punch a beautiful hole through the air.
They absolutely do, and when you get into that draft, you just feel immediately like the turbo being kicked up even another notch, maybe like half a bar of more turbo coming in when you can just get in behind somebody, all nice and easy. And you have onboard anti-roll bar adjustments as well with these cars, like you got with the Lotus 29 actually as well. So you can and you should adjust that throughout the race when you are in the draft of another driver. As we see a spinner in the background, that's number 17. That's the number 17 car. We'll get a confirmation of who exactly that is in a moment's time, but that was a big one. That was Jonas Kuberstein, from who started in 9th place.
Yeah, he did, and that was not what you want to see, and that's that outside curve. You've got to be so aggressive around this track, and it can very easily fall into troubles. Now, back up forward to the race lead, and there is Medel out in front. Michael de Turk just behind. Definitely no slouches, Michael, but as they now start to navigate the traffic, who is going to be willing out there at this moment in time to try and really push in terms of what they need? This is going to be a crucial matter of fact in terms of what makes this race happen, is how they deal with the traffic and where the pick opens up for someone like Michael de Turk to go and attack. And not quite here, but this is where you're starting to get the first stragglers. It's when they hit the bulk where it's going to be keen. You watch the lights flashing. That's going to be what the drivers and the lap traffic are going to be looking at. Those lights flashing saying, hello, I'm quicker, out the way, please.
Yeah, and the Audis are gonna be like watching their mirrors. Yeah, I see your lights, but please wait for a suitable opportunity to pass me too. And really with these cars, it's more or less the braking zones where you want to make the passes with the Nissan. You usually, if you do it right, you don't really cost the Audi any time. You don't lose too much time yourselves. But if you get stuck behind somebody, look at this, and that's the Turk taking the opportunity of Madel, who was stuck behind the Audi, and just going outside on Le Mans Complex and taking the lead away. That's excellent gamesmanship from Michael de Turk.
Look, you have to take risks in a race like this, and Michael de Turk was very happy for it as he went through the beautiful Le Mans section of circuit, taking the race lead away here at Sebring, the season opener here of your Camel GT series. And now you start sensing, where do you try and get through? And now you've got to try and run away and try and get things going. Look at this, trying to push around the outside of 1, 2. You need coordination. Dive back to the inside. Past 3 machines, past 4 machines, and this is very difficult right now for Madel to follow. Look, he's getting boxed in. He passes the Hello Kitty car there down on the inside, going into turn 3, and now trying to go around the outside. Look at it, he's already lost a second and a half almost.
Yeah, and the Turk is going to be saying Hello Kitty later in the evening if he keeps driving like this, because he's going to be driving everybody else mad, but he's going to be driving for victory too. And once you get into that flow of passing the Audi traffic, passing the lap traffic, it's an unbelievable sensation. I hate to bang on about this, but I've been there, and you can just see, and you know where the gap is going to open up, and you get that sort of sixth sense, kind of like a little bit of a magic 8 ball into the future. Oh!
Dibdahl gets himself turned around then with the 3 wide pushed by Timothy Reed to the inside. The traffic in the middle didn't know where to go. And it's Richard Dibdahl who finds himself in trouble and has to try and skirt back onto circuit rather sheepishly, I may add as well. That's never a good idea to go 3 wide, but you have to take risks in the traffic, and that's where it went wrong. And all of a sudden, Timothy Reed now in 5th position will be looking behind him at the car then, who is sat in that 6th position overall in Fernando Serrato.
Yeah, but there's a grand difference, check, between taking a risk and taking calculated risk. So I think what Michael de Turk in the lead, for example, is doing, he's doing, as we are watching this great battle actually, let's return to that later because we might be going 3 wide. No, we're just going just 2 wide through the Sunset Bend. Still impressive.
Well, here's 3. Look at that. Through Sunset Bend, just finding the downforce, getting the run through. Reed still holds on, but you're going to have to work out where do you want to go. Smoker's trying to think about which way does he want to go. Does he want to push it 3 wide? No. Serrato to the inside, trying to get the move done, but there's traffic on that inside. They're going to have to fall into line as they run through turn 1.
Absolutely, they are, and now looking to the inside, queuing up once again, trying to make it predictable for the lapped cars as well. Trying to go for the gaps, trying to see where the gap will open up, and that is crucial, as I was talking about earlier. You kind of have to have that 6th sense, taking the calculated risk, trusting that there will be a gap that you don't quite see yet, but you have to see a couple of seconds into the future, know where the gap is going to be, know where the Audi is going to be, and know the pace difference. So when are you going to catch up to those cars? And if you don't, you'll see what we saw earlier, which is drivers kind of like, okay, hoping that the gap will be there, instead of knowing that the gap will be there. And once you're hoping behind the wheel of a racing car, you usually are going to put yourself into a position which is not an enviable one.
Yeah, it's not enviable, and that is going to be a really, really important run as they go through this race. They're heading closer and closer now towards the mid-stage of this race, and they know now that dealing with the traffic 1 stage at a time is going to be a rather crucial affair. There is the number 40 of Ferran Grau, currently in 3rd position, and through that we saw that Ferran Grau was only maybe a couple of seconds off of the race lead, Ossian, in GTP. Now is back a good 3-4 seconds. It's a huge accident in the back. That's massive. Massive. It's the number 9 who's been caught up, and that's Ian Haycox.
Yeah, Haycox is in the wall on the Ullman Straight, and I believe that's one damaged Nissan going very slowly on the right side of the racetrack. That's a 27 of Shumilov from 17th place, actually a little bit higher up. And look at the state of that race car. You break it, you bought it. Well, that's going to take some time repairing. I think they're going to look for a whole new body job, and I think they're going to be enjoying some of the sponsors' product this evening, just trying to drown the sorrows.
That looks more like a demolished BattleBots flipper than anything else that we've seen out there on circuit. Haycox will be able to trundle the car into the pits. And you got someone like Ian Haycock, who, of course, had an accident in the real world and essentially lost the ability to use one of his limbs and has had to really adapt his driving style. About 40 minutes is his perfect driving length, and he just gets caught up in the wrong sort of instant, and now he's really going to be on the back foot. The good news about this championship, though, Ossian, is they have 2 drop rounds available to them.
Yes, they do, and they're gonna be... Well, you never really want to use those early, but you have that as a backup in case you need it. So your best 10 results count towards the final championship. Now, you don't want to never, as I said, you never want to use your drop round first week, but at least he's got that going for him. And that's kind of a little bit of a good situation that you can look back to next week and still say, okay, I haven't lost anything in the championship just quite yet. But look what Leskela has done. He's now opened himself a little bit of a gap in the lead of the GTO division, with Del Olmo now 1 second away, and that may not sound much, but at some point there is this curious phenomenon with race car drivers, is that if you see the driver ahead of you in a pack like this starting to lose a little bit of ground, like Del Olmo is losing here, then Timothy Vaughan, once he gets close enough, he's gonna be maybe thinking, if Del Olmo doesn't have the pace to catch up to the lead, maybe I will have the pace to catch up to the lead, and start to think about an overtake instead of being nice and cooperative.
Well, finding the traffic at the right time is so crucial, and not just crucial for GTPs, but for GTOs as well. When it comes to the best drivers in GTO, Ossian, would you agree in the sense that as we see a couple drivers more now diving down into the lane, this is one of the prototypes out there, and there will be the number 47 running a Silk Cut Jaguar-inspired livery out there on circuit there. So down into the pits then, we focus on Brendan Lim out on circuit. I think the big key in terms of GTOs, in terms of what they do, is we focus on the top 2 then in the race lead at this point in time. What do you think that the best way to go forward for a GTO is to dictate where the traffic goes around you compared to being moved off the racing line?
Yeah, I mean, you always wanna, the basic idea is to let the driver overtaking do the overtake. So you wanna stick to your racing line. But at some point, there are certain points where you might wanna actually show them that, okay, you'd rather pass me here. For example, if you, and we see the number 10, once again, of Timothy Vaughan actually, from a podium position outside of the racetrack.
Yeah, and that's at Cunningham Corner, which would have been a very, very not traditional place, and will be suddenly joined. And I wouldn't say he's had a lucky strike at that moment in time. That much is for certain. He now falls back way down the order, and that is the last thing that you want to be dealing with. Look how much time he's dropped. He's now racing out there, trying to get as much as he possibly can with the likes then of Ralf Zeipelt out on circuit. So he's really dropped positions.
Yeah, I think he went from having a lucky strike to visiting the Benson and Hedges.
Well, he certainly hasn't got himself in the best position in the world, that much I will say. But now he's going to have to try and really work to get back through and make this race his own in the remaining time that is left then in this motor race at Sebring. They know what they need, and a good start to the season always boosts the confidence. And this is one of those unique races out there, or the uniqueness of iRacing, where you've got these championships, which are 12 weeks that go every single time. Little search there to the inside. That's Del Olmo. That's Del Olmo at turn 1.
Wow, he's off, and he's off big time, and I wonder, that's very early to be off in that corner. Like, he's not way back there where you expect him to be. So I think he's had an accident already in the entry of the corner, because there's no way he would end up there if he just ran wide at the exit. You don't run that close, and he's not that damaged despite being next to the wall, so there's probably been a big spin at some point. Whatever the case, we don't know, we can't know. What we do know is that he's lost a lot of time to the leaders, and he's now all the way back, way out.
Yeah,
he's 12th.
Yeah. He's a long way back in 12th position, and one of the things with the GTO, it's one of the few cars where you really do have to try and find the balance of grip. You can definitely push on the rear tyres around here as we focus on the GTP lead overall. Michael de Turk and Andrew Medell, they're first and second, but the one thing that you certainly note with the GTO is that you can push the level of grip, but you can't push it forever.
No, you can't. Once the tires go out, it goes out, and you can sort of start to feel the rear tires going out first. That's the part that really starts to deteriorate as the race goes on, especially at the exit of the slow corners. Like you come out of the hairpin here, you can see running on board with Marel and getting really close at the apex of the corner. So I think it's the Turk more like taking a more tentative approach to the exit of the corner, whereas Marel felt like he could attack the apex there a little bit faster. And once again here, and this is the place where you're gonna have difficulty in exiting Cunningham once the tires start to go out. So the rear is starting to get really squirrely, and once you overheat those tires, it's really difficult to get them back. So that's something they're gonna have to watch out here, as we have like 10 minutes to go in this race. Already almost half an hour of hard driving behind them, and it's really about who has the tires in the best condition right now, who has the grip. And what I do like about this situation is that it's mano a mano, Jake. It's a duel between the Turk and Marel. Grau is 4 seconds back, Sintes Galindo 7 seconds back, Serrato 15 back. It's really a duel between these drivers, and it's man and machine in perfect harmony. Let's see who comes out on top.
Yeah, it is mano to mano, which is hand to hand and not man to man combat out there, and trying to get as much as they can. Medel came into this race not really with too much confidence, but I think the confidence of putting the car on pole position would have certainly G'd him up a little bit. Then into the opening corner, fast flick, and you get that transition then from concrete over to asphalt as you run then through turn 2 into turn 3, the fast left. And this is where the Turk's going to have to make the advantage through the corners, because he's able to push, and you get a little bit of that aero wake, that wash that comes over the car through the aerodynamics, making life a little bit more difficult for the car behind to follow closely in tandem.
Yep, and it's not a constant either, the aerodynamics and how they affect you. It's not this constant thing that its car's gonna understeer when you are closely behind another driver. Instead, it's something that changes all throughout the race. You can kind of come, for example, if you catch somebody a couple of tenths in the middle of a corner, you can suddenly get turbulent air at the exit of the corner, and you're gonna understeer a lot more than you expected. But running as close as he is, the benefits that Madel is getting from the draft much outweigh the inhibitants of that dirty air. But the problem with running this close is that he can't really anticipate the lap cars really well, as you can see there, having to go to the right side at the last second and somehow surviving, but that was really close to a complete disaster.
Well, you could have followed in the line, or Andrew Medel's inventing his own lines out there. That was brave to go to the outside of Bishop Corner. That would have given him a scare. But when you're in a prototype or a GTP as you are in the Nissans, you just have to commit.
You just have to, and I think he was reminding himself of the Turk earlier on, how Michael the Turk got that lead in the same place, going 3 wide, just finding his own line and realizing that, if Madel is going to be a little bit conservative with this lap traffic, then I'm just going to attack to the inside, catching him with his pants down. And these two drivers, they're so close to each other in terms of pace that it's really the lap traffic and how they navigate it that is going to make the difference, as we see a great side-by-side battle here for the 9th place.
Yeah, and you can just see how much the car bounces through Sunset Bend, and it is so very, very easy for these drivers to get through. This is Daniel Gomez we're looking at the moment, trying to find a way through on Jack Wells. Jack Wells having a really, really good race in number 32 right now. He's made some great progress so far.
Yeah, and actually I think that's the number 29 of Gomez, who is ahead there, and Reese behind him. But yeah, no worries, Jack is also right there in the mix. He's just a couple of seconds ahead of these guys. And he's had a good race.
I just want to have a look at the side of that car. There is apparently a unicorn on the side. So the car is going to be going quick, and it's going to be trying to go quick out there on circuit. So that should be an interesting run through. And I'm sure that the Prince, the Sun, or whoever it is on the side, is going to be giving as much help as possible through the corners. They can just catch it through the middle. So still an ability to go out there and charge at this moment, but you have to really pick and choose your moments heading into the second half of a race like this. Every single overtake out there is important. One overtake at a time. You can only race the car that's in front of you and not the whole race as a whole.
Unicorns on the side of the car. I wonder if that's a Scottish thing. Because that's their national animal, isn't it?
It is national animal. It's also an English thing as well. The unicorn is quite a lot on the royal seals that you find of town halls and the like. You often find a unicorn there, but that's all going to be good. Oh, it's getting busy here though as well, as you've got everyone trying to go through. So now that is going to be a big scrap side by side. So this trying to get into the opening corner, number 7. Looking to make the pass, and the pass is made by Timothy Reed. So important move there, defending the position then from Luke. Oh no, he's gone into the fence at turn 3, just like that.
It's the renowned mass delivery, and he certainly went a little bit rotary into that corner, and now that back is just gone. Look at the state of the rear aerodynamics. The good thing is that he went straight back first, so he probably hasn't bent the suspension. The rear end should be fine otherwise, but then when you got that aerodynamics shift now with the rear end bent up like that, the rear wing not doing its job, it's increasing the drag and it's reducing the downforce on the rear, so that's a double whammy there. Plus he's gonna have to fight for it for 10 more minutes in this race. And really, like, once your rear tires are already starting to go, the car is getting lighter, you need more rear downforce, not less. That's the way these cars are balanced. So he's gonna really have to get used to this car and its changed characteristics real quick.
Yeah, and that's where you're going to have a lot of confidence in where you are as a driver. Anyone can drive a car that is completely clean, but when a car is damaged, that's when you really tell. Oh, number 37. Big damage there, the front off the car. Then as it goes through, that's Doug Cloud, who finds himself wishing that his car definitely had a lot more than that. He's got a massive puff of smoke, so the engine's going to be gone, and that's a retirement for him.
Yep, and in a big puff of smoke, just like his surname would imply, at the exit of Le Mans corner, really one of those places where there are places, Jake, and I don't want to discredit anyone, but there are places where normal drivers have accidents in, and then there are places where fast drivers have accidents in, because they usually try to take that last tenth of a second, last hundredth of a second in a different place. And I think Le Mans Complex is something where a fast driver has an accident in that they try to go in there a little bit faster, take some more chances with it, whereas typically you would be more used to just focusing on the exit, but there's a lot of time to be made also in the entry and middle part of that corner, as we are returning to watching the GTP cars now, and that is the number 19.
This is interesting because we've just seen Luke Smoker go through the pit, didn't stop in the box, it looked like, so that might have been the drive-through penalty at 17 instant points, as the rear left of the car would indicate.
Oh yeah, you're actually quite correct on that one, and look at the state of the rear left of that car. That's been like, it's like somebody went through there with a knife, and I would suggest do not park your car in Birmingham before the race. That's what's gonna happen.
Oh, that's disappointing for Birmingham, I have to say. Anyway, for them at this point in time, this is not going to be what Smoker wanted. Was up there in the top 10, was looking for a really good result, but now is really going to have to battle. And if there's only a case where you've got 8 incident points left in this race, it's still a fair amount of time to pick those up. And you pick those up very quickly. That's just getting into 2 accidents there, 2 hits on the side. That's 4 incident points apiece.
Yeah. I mean, it's also something that, okay, you're gonna take it a little bit more carefully, but at the same time with lap traffic especially, you want to take it carefully. But you can't just think about it all the time, because once you start thinking about it, you're gonna second guess yourself. And especially once when you're driving a Nissan, you can't second guess yourself with that car. It's such a confidence car. Like, you can gain seconds with just being confident. You don't even have to have any higher ability. You just have to be confident, trust what the car is doing. But if you're thinking all the time, I need to be careful with this. It's not 10th or 2 you're losing, and that's Smith, and he's, wow, on the main straight.
Jamie Hamill-Smith in trouble, and round also goes the number 29 of Daniel Gomez, who finds himself then facing the wrong direction. That definitely no help at all, and certainly not what the doctor ordered for the number 29 Yokohama car, as that will now be a lot of trouble to get back going and up to speed. It's going to be put immediately under pressure by Jason Dunningham then for place. So this is going to be important as they head now down in through this next section of track. How much drive can you get going through the Fangio S's?
Yep, and the answer is that, look, he's gonna have to take it real slow and just taking carefully, and don't take the sand there on the exit either. That's not gonna help your cause at all. Trying to get used to the car real quickly. I wonder if he had a contact with that Audi on the main straight, because he was around at the exit of turn number 1 and that Audi was really wrecked at the start-finish line. So I wondered if there was a cause and correlation rather with these two drivers. Nonetheless, we are back to some Audi battles, and that is a car we've seen quite a lot of today. Timothy Vaughan now back in a podium position.
Yeah, with Philip Lake just behind, who is one of the quick drivers in this series. Philip Lake is someone who definitely knows how to put a turn of cadence around the number 12 through the opening corner, and he's going to have to try and find a way to get through. Look at them battle through with the flick as they go through the opening corner. They are fighting on the edge of grip as they enter turn number 3, trying to get as much they can off each exit, try and open up the track as much as they possibly can. Lake finding himself stuck at around a quarter of a second, half a second, but here comes the lap traffic behind, and this is a good place to catch them through this big gurney bend, because it gives them the opportunity to just dice through, and thank you very much, it's easy under braking, but this is where they are even when they try and put the power down off the exit.
Yeah, and the Audi is actually gonna have to just be a little bit careful to not clobber that Nissan, especially with the old tires at the exit of the corner. So I think Vaughan would have had to be mindful of the Nissan that passed him and realizing that, okay, maybe I can't quite get the exit that I want, but it's still a good place to catch some lap traffic. So will be the next one. It's going to be after Tower Corner, just before the double bend left. So that's a great place to catch somebody up as well. The Nissan's going to have to wait a little bit here, then get to the outside as he will, and then inside onto the next one, I think, and that's going to be an easy... Oh, no! Oh. Well, how you guys did that?
Well, that there is number 46, struggling, going slow. So that would have been massive dramas there for J.E. Hyde, who was trying to recover in this race. And this is what you get with a massive turnabout in terms of what everyone's skill set is. You get a car that's going slow, and you won't expect it going through that section of track to run into the back of someone.
No, not at all. I was just about to comment how easy of a place that was to really pass somebody in, because you have that clear position. You can pass the first one on the outside and second one on the inside, but just really didn't turn out to be that way, and that could have been a whole lot worse at such high speeds.
It could have been. We are having a couple of issues with the clock. I've got it on my end that we've got about 4 laps to go here for the leaders on time, not the 1 or 2 laps to go that we've got at this moment in time according to our clock. So that's what we see at the moment. Turk with the lead by 0.4 of a second. Philip Lake able to keep it going, but has lost a lot of time and just driving it around. And now all of a sudden opens up once again. Here's a beautiful little look, and there's the contact. Ground 16 machine, and that's troubles for Hervé Trengerade.
Yep, that's the Norwegian, and he's gonna have to really do some figure skating to get around. You can just see the lack of grip that the Audi has laterally. So when it's on the tarmac, when it's on the black stuff, it's gonna do fine. But once you get to the grass, you have such an amount of power that it's really difficult to get that car turned back around. And he lost a lot of time, and another big one. What's going on with these guys? Have they gone mad? Did somebody slip catnip in for them?
Well, we're getting towards the end of the race, and they're going through the lap traffic stages there, and that's definitely no good at all there. I believe Marcus Lindblom was involved in that, and that's definitely not going to be any help for the classic golf-inspired livery Nissan out there. There's your leading battle, and it's the top 2, all of a sudden finding themselves nose to tail at this point, and Medel is going to have to try and find the right way around Michael de Turk.
Definitely so, definitely so. Medel now just 0.4 of a second away, and look at him just catching back up. It looked like a done deal when he dropped 2 seconds back that de Turk would be able to control the race from there on out. But that's not the case here. It's Medel who is looking really to dethrone Michael de Turk from the lead here. But can Michael hold on to this victory, or will he have to fight for it yet? We'll have to wait and see. Just a couple of laps to go here, Czech. I'm not making predictions of this one. It's difficult to say as Mardell goes very sideways and holds to it pretty well, but that's gonna have the added difficulty of now cooking up his rears, and he's gonna have to wait for some fast corners to get those rears back, and we're coming onto the Ullman straight. That's the worst possible place for you to have cooked up rears because you want to get the power down early, once again wiggling a little bit.
Yeah, once again, so with only a handful of laps to go, we do apologise once again about the timer up the top, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a really close battle out there, and I tell you what, Mardell is throwing everything he possibly can at this to try and get through. Round the final corner, they will wait for the signal. Will Barney, the flag man, have a lap to go up there on the right? No, he won't. So there's at least 2 more laps to go yet here for Mardell to try and find this pass. He'll search to the inside for the race lead. Michael de Turk hanging it around the outside, trying to take that place and hold on to it. And he just about manages it. Another search at turn 3. Not going to quite find it.
No, but the battle has commenced. Now the battle has begun, and really Michael de Turk is going to have to be on the defensive from here on out. Mardell looked to the inside. It was a nice try, not quite committed enough. He didn't need to be. He can't be desperate now. Look where Michael's weaknesses are. Michael de Turk's weaknesses, try and find them and try to exploit them. If you get lap traffic to do it with, good. If you don't, you're going to have to battle straight up. And they do have a nice queue of Audis coming up. There's an Audi battle coming up to them. So that's potentially grounds for a little bit of opportunism, but will it be all or nothing, or will he just follow Michael's cues? We'll have to wait and see here. Look at that, no room.
Check-up. Huge check-up with the lap traffic. They're allowed to battle for position, mind you, and now how do you hold it around the outside? It's been wonderfully done. There's one car off on the right-hand side, not quite sure who that was, who ended up facing the wrong way, but now flicking through. Gore, you needed a lot of bravery there to make sure that you were through on the inside, taking all of the curb, Austin, as we're heading towards the white flag lap here, because the timer is going to be soon hitting that range where the final lap's going to be there. That was as close could be.
Yep, and look at Mardell now utilizing all of that Audi draft. It's a precious draft, and he's still just a little bit too far away to make anything happen into the sunset bend, but using that inside lane, and that's his advantage. He can use that inside lane, whereas Michael is a little bit weaker on the fast corners, so potentially at the exit of the first corner you have a chance into the second braking zone. Let's see if he utilizes it. Now take a tight line here, that's good. Don't touch the inside wall, and then utilize that exit. Look at Michael making a bit of a mistake. Gonna have to be defensive, but not quite pulling it off is Mardell.
Trying to search, trying to find a way through. We will see whether it's going to be 1 or 2 laps to go. We're not quite sure at this point, but Michael de Turk is throwing everything he possibly can at this moment in time to try and stay ahead. Mardell's throwing everything he can to get through, and now you're starting to see Michael de Turk try and go to everything he can. Move to the inside, break the toe as much as possible here, Ossian.
He is, and well, you can utilize that, sure, but I wouldn't be focused about that right now. I would be just focused on my line, trying to hit your marks, as difficult as it is, and just doing my best in order to go forward as fast as possible. And if the guy behind is looking to make opportunities, looking to strike, then just take the middle lane. That's working. Sebring, that's Mardell.
Mardell going around. Now that's trouble because he's going to have to get up to pace pretty quickly. And look at that. That's Aitor Sintes Galindo, who's been quietly working a great pace over the last couple of laps. And he's through. He's up then into second position. What a brilliant piece of work. Michael de Turk now with a 7-second margin at the front of the field. And I think this might be the final lap. I'm not sure. We'll have to go and have a look at car number 3, who's out there at the front of the field. Brilliant stuff then from Aitor Sintes Galindo. His late race pace has been truly fantastic out there overall. So there you can see flag waving. That is the white flag out there. So there is 1 more lap to go here around Sebring as Barney waves that around. For second now, it's on a Mardell fallen to third. He will be kicking himself about that mistake, but he's got no time to rest because he looks to the inside at turn 1. Big power move to the outside by Aitor around the traffic.
He is, and they're both just weaving, snaking their way around this traffic. Everybody, it's like parting the seas here. Once these two are coming through, you just have the sort of aggression, get out of my way or I'm gonna make myself that room. These 2 wedges, the wedge-shaped car and the drivers looking to work their way around. Can Mardell find 1 more chance? Yes, he looks to the inside.
Oh, he's going to really try and get that stop. The brake disc glowing, contact there. And Aitor Sintes Galindo will lose out, and he's very immediately on the headlights. He was not happy about that move down at the hotel hairpin, and he's going to have to work really hard over the final half of this lap to try and get this back in GTO. Yuko Leskala has checked out. He's got a 3.7 margin. It's Javier Del Olmo that they'll catch in a couple of moments' time. But as they flick through, Aitor still not giving this one up then. Through the tower corner, Medel looking really squirrely on the rear tyres as he now runs through the Flying Fortress straight, through the Bishop's Corner and heading towards Le Mans and the Ullman Straight for the final time in this race for Michael de Turk. Out there at the front. He has done a wonderful job in this race and doing well. So slow off the exit though. This is going to open up Aitor here for a chance for second position here on the final lap. The opportunity opens up. Michael de Turk will be heading around the final corner now and coming up over to the line. Michael de Turk wins the race here at Sebring for second though. Aitor Sintes Galindo has got the move done. He's done it at the final corner. Here comes the cutback, but he's out of power. Aitor will take second ahead of Andrew Medel, and we will wait for Yuko Leskala as he will now find himself with a beautiful drive. And look at how long he's got left in his race. He has got himself all the time in the world, and crucially, I think he's the only car on the leading lap, which gives him so much time to work with here on this race. He's got a lap of honor here, Ossian.
He absolutely does, and I mean, take a bow, Jouko Leskala, for this race. I mean, we followed the Nissan battle for a good reason. Leskala, and I think it's Kundelis as well on the final lap, who are still going. But I mean, that's such a great battle for the Nissan, second and third place. Even if the lead got away from Marel, he still fought bravely for that second position. He wanted to get it back. He felt determined to get it back, but ultimately, a little bit, I think he was a little bit too aggressive on that move to the hairpin. I was looking at it live and I was just looking like, okay, you are the driver on the inside, you have to hold that inside line. It's not Formula 1 rules where you can just shove somebody out of the track. You have to hold the inside, and if somebody squeezes you in, as long as they leave a car with, it's fine. So he got a bit of contact there. That's racing, that's all right, but he really got that karma sort of back over the course of that last lap. But here comes Jouko Leskala, and Jouko Leskala in the final corner in the sunset bend. Well, take a bow. Last season's champion is really starting this season, 2023 season 2, in the best way possible. He's gonna take that victory and get himself a little bit closer once again to that 50% winning percentage mentioned earlier.
That is victory number 59 of his season, and he's done a wonderful job as everyone then has crossed the line. We're going to step aside for one moment here with the Global SimRacing Channel. We'll be back with confirmation of results after this.
There's a bear in the woods.
Right, come on you fatty. Come on fatty.
I don't even know who lives in there or what the hell's going on there.
Could I sleep in there today? Oh, no room.
And we're on the way there. Ignore the fart.
We go, and a bit of that, and a bit of...
Oh.
You know. Sangers, James, Sangers I've got. Ooh. My pedal broke, man. And thanks to Sold Out Bros, Mickey's on the most useless street in the world. Come on!
Always keep a shoe in your kitchen department, guys.
Don't worry, it's the COVID talking. It's probably wild boar, a few bears, a lot of women washing their cars saying hi on the side of the road.
Go on, Mick, feel it, Mick, feel it.
I might be going mad.
Want to see me underwear?
A race that had everything from start to finish, especially in prototype. Sebring never fails to disappoint, and proven so here today with Kamel GT in the opening round of the championship. Michael the Turk, the margin will not be the representation of the story. A win by 9.2 seconds. Aitor Sintes Galindo stealing it away like a thief in the night from Andrew Medel on the final corner of this race. Second and third decided. Ferran Grau would finish fourth ahead of Fernando Serrato in fifth. Jack Wells having a fantastic drive up to sixth ahead of Hamilton Barrera and Aaron Humphrey in eighth position. Roman Bello would finish ninth, and despite having to drive down through the pits, Luke Smoker would end up with a top 10 finish overall. I'll be ahead of Jason Dunnington and Timothy Reed. Those would be the last finishers on the leading lap. We saw Reed backed up into the wall. A lap down would be Pablo Suarez, Daniel Gomez, and Brendan Lim. And there you got drivers 2 laps down or worse in category. Marcus Lindblom, J.E. Hyde, and then retirees include Martin Krajcik, which is a shame for him. We saw what happened to both Vladimir Shumilov and the amazing accident that Richard Dibdahl had. Jonas Koberstein, Jason Clapper, and Jamie Pounder all finding troubles then, with Clapper and Pounder in trouble on the opening lap. Ossian, GTO for you, and that seemed to be a bit of a cakewalk in the second half of the race.
Yeah, it looked a little bit difficult early on for Jouko Leskela, but then he managed to pull out in the end a convincing victory at the beginning of the season ahead of Artur Askundelis and Timothy Won, who did manage to get up to the podium after the moments that he had earlier in the race, dropping all the way outside of top 5, making a great comeback in that sense. Hugh Haycox ending up in 4th place, Franco Scuri taking home top 5 position as well. Javier Del Olmo, who was fighting with Jouko for the lead, who was starting from the pole position in this class, ending up in 6th place after his accident. Jack David Spickett 7th, Uwe Trengride 8th, Aurimas Zilinskas 9th, and Peter Urban in 10th place. Really a accident-packed race for the Audi here. Ralf Seibelt 11th, Christopher Pais 12th, and it's Juri Giesen, Andreas Schuster, and Daniel Ripetto. John Olsson in 16th, Carlos Fonseca 17th, Philip Lake ending up 18th after almost getting to the podium. Ian Haycox 19th, Jamie Hamelsmith 20th. Really some unlucky guys here at the bottom end of the standings. Campora, Doug Cloud, Noel Luneburg, and Miguel A. Alcalde, who is classified as 24th in his class. So Jake, quite a race we just saw, and it's promising to be quite an exciting Camel season if the opener is anything to go by.
Absolutely. And you take a look at what happened. Let's talk prototypes first and foremost. With those drivers up at the top, some names that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be up there. Michael de Turk certainly drove a brilliant race. That, of course, was just his second podium out there and his second race win that he's had. So how about that for a conversion rate there, Ozzy? 2 times on the podium. Both of them have been victories.
It's quite good. It's quite decent. Andrew Muddle is somebody I'll be looking forward to seeing all throughout the season, because he looked convincing to me. He's maybe a little bit like, okay, he was a little bit overzealous in this race, a little bit over aggressive, threw it away really in the last possible moment. But on the other hand, he has that 1-lap pace. He took the pole position. And it just had a little bit of a gap there in my speech. So he also took the fight to Michael de Turk, to Aitor Sintes Galindo, in a really aggressive fashion that is the right side of aggressive, and showed that he is not afraid to take the risks. And that's what separates the goods from the greats. Now, if he can just pull that in a little bit, hold back just a tiny bit, see where the edge is a little bit clearer, then I think he has potential to really not only be a great driver in this series, but also to see that I rating go into a rapid rise.
I tell you what, he's got the same amount of wins in this series as a certain driver called Ossian Puhaka, so I think that he's doing a pretty good job, all things considered.
Now,
Yeah, no, he's great. He's a great driver, is Michael. Let's talk GTO very quickly, though, because I think the story of the race isn't the fact that Leskala won, but Hugh Haycock's from the back of the field. We really didn't see him much on camera, but he managed to find from the back of the field to 4th place. We know how rapid he is.
Hugh is a great driver. I always liked him, watching him in this series. He's one of those that gets a little bit overshadowed, perhaps, by the likes of Jouko Leskala and by the likes of Joni Hagner when he used to do this series, Mikko Ruskola and so on. But he was always there and always sort of in the mix for the podium positions. And if this season proves to be like the opener, then he could definitely fight for a podium position in the championship standings, maybe more. Not quite sure he has enough to take it to Jouko yet for the championship, or Del Olmo for that matter, but then very few do. So Hugh is definitely in that second. If you look at the drivers here in the GDP or GDO rather, you got Javier Del Olmo, then you got Jouko Leskala, and then you got everybody else. And then in that second pack, you got the likes of Timothy Vaughan, the likes of Artur Askundelis, Ian and Hugh Haycox, Philip Lake, and so on. And he's definitely in that mix.
He's in that mix, and that will bring us then to the conclusion of action here today from the Sebring International Raceway. Want to give a massive thanks to everyone who has got it done, and especially to the crew that has been on the broadcast here today from, of course, Ossian, Zach, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment of action which is going on here on the Global SimRacing Channel. In terms of upcoming races, that's going to be coming up on your screen, so make sure to mark them down. But 25th of March, Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern, we are heading to the Circuito de Jerez, Angel Nieto, for the first time in the series. The brand new iRacing circuit brings its debut. We'll be running the moto layout, so it will be the fast-flowing end to the lap with the fast 2 right-handers before the final corner of Jorge Lorenzo. Want to say that it's been an absolute pleasure to bring this to you and bring some incredible racing. Michael de Turk and Jouko Leskala on top, and they'll be looking behind them throughout the entirety of the season. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.